Oh man, it's cold. We're over here in Seven Hills. Today we're going to do raw takes just here in a second. Live from my truck yet again. Because it is cold and we need to reflect this cold weather with some cold raw takes. What do you say about that? Maybe not necessarily some cold raw takes, but some raw takes. And I got some cold things to say that I'm going to flame up here in a second. Right here on Raw Takes with Andrew Hody. Welcome to the show. Raw Takes with Andrew Hody, live once again from my truck, defrosting right now. It's actually getting a lot warmer. Coming to you from Seven Hills, Ohio. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Please like, comment, subscribe below. Please make sure to check out the show on social media at Raw Takes with Andrew Hody on Facebook, Instagram, Hody Raw Takes, and of course, Hody Andrew. You can find me on X/Twitter. Hope everyone had a fantastic Thursday. If you're in the Northeast Ohio region, you know how slippery it was on the road. Stay safe. I was on Interstate 90 earlier, and it was ugly. It was really, really ugly. It was really slippery. Just make sure you're staying safe out there if you're still on the roads. I think it's supposed to warm up a little bit this weekend, though. Lots going on in the sports world, obviously. I did a few short videos on the Gimenez move by the Cleveland Guardians. Also, another short video on Bill Belichick reportedly becoming the new head coach in North Carolina. I got a lot to catch up on sports news, busy at work today, so I will check up on making sure everything's official and whatnot. There might be some things that are still reported. I'm just going to, do the news and react to that as based on how I did. I was pretty hyped up about the Gimenez move. In terms of the Guardians, how they operate on a cheap budget, I like it because you got to go out and get another bat. Brian Rocchio, I think, has solidified himself as the shortstop. Why not get another bat, possibly the cheapest bat possible? And that's why I have a problem with this move. Because Gimenez was a great defender, and you're taking a great defender, and what you're doing is you're trying to get another bat, and Gimenez, being the great defender he was, if you're trying to get another bat, why don't you just go spend the money and get another bat? I mean, the New York Mets essentially broke the bank to get Juan Soto, and that's my criticism of the Dolans, essentially, because the Dolans, they're really cheap with this roster, and I think they need to spend more money, and I called them out on it, and I'm going to continue to do so. With all due respect to the Dolans, because I believe they do truly love the Northeast Ohio area, I truly believe that they do care about this region, but I'm not so sure they care about winning a World Series, and I'm not so sure they care about the fans, and I'm not so sure they care about a winning baseball club consistently year in and year out. I mean, they already have that thanks to Chris Antonetti doing a terrific job. Chris Antonetti has been in this league for 12 years now, no World Series title to show for it, and he's done a hell of a job bringing in guys on the lower end, making them star players. We saw what he's been able to do with Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez has been able to take pay cuts in order to help this team try to win a World Series, and the Guardians continue to let him down, and that's on ownership. You can run a good organization and still not be great owners. I mean, I just think the Dolans are like that. Dolans are great in terms of, yes, being committed to the region, not taking that away from them. I always like to emphasize the Dolans have done a terrific job being committed to Northeast Ohio. We already know that, so I'm not going to take that away from them. But they don't spend enough money on the damn roster. End of story. And so they deserve harsh criticism for that. Harsh criticism. Because in order to do really well in business, you need good product. And the Guardians overall have been good product, but I mean, let's just be honest here. Good product isn't great product. They have one World Series appearance, and they've lost to the New York Yankees in 2017 in the ALDS. Then they lost to the New York Yankees again in 2020 in the wild card round. They lost to the New York Yankees again in 2022 in the wild card round, and then they lost to the New York Yankees in 2024 in the ALCS. And they lost to the Houston Astros in 2018. I mean, the Houston Astros are kind of becoming another evil empire, but that's a discussion for another day. How many eliminations to the New York Yankees do we need to take? That's 4. That's 4 in the last 7 years. You gotta cross over the hump. And if you're the Dolans, you gotta spend the money on the roster in order to do so. So I am going to be very critical of that. Because moving off of Gimenez, yes, I get it, not the power bat that we're hoping for, and that could really solidify this lineup. But he was a hell of a defender. It made no sense to make that move. You need to go buy another bat. And we know that the Dolans are making more money because the Dolans just essentially bought out on all the attendance last year. They're making more renovations to the stadium. We have enough money for that. And they're great. They're great. As I said, commitment to the Northeast Ohio region. The Dolans are absolutely locked in on that. But for me to give the Dolans a pass on what they're doing with the roster And it's Antonetti's control of the roster. I get that, but Antonetti can only do so much. It's criminal that Antonetti is in this position. And if I were Chris Antonetti, I would look at other organizations. I mean, Terry Francona might want some of his own people in there in Cincinnati, right down 71. So, I mean, and I'm not saying Chris Antonetti's done a terrific job. I want him to remain with the Cleveland Guardians. I don't mean it like that. Having said that, though, the Guardians' ownership, they're cheap. It's the bottom line. They're cheap when it comes to this roster. And it's Major League Baseball's fault to a degree, too, because they don't have the restrictions in place for a salary floor or a salary cap. Salary floor, in particular, is really necessary. And we don't see teams like the New York Yankees always competing in, out with the same amount of money every year to try to win a World Series. And I'll go back to Commissioner Rob Manfred. I mean, Commissioner Rob Manfred's too busy making up stupid rules such as the golden bat. I mean, dumbest rule I've ever heard in my life. Rob Manfred's an awful commissioner. That's just ifs, ands, or buts. With all due respect to baseball, I think he's ruining the sport. I really, really do. He's not done a terrific job with Major League Baseball. And it's a darn shame because it's a great game. And I think if it's played the right way, with the right rule set in place, with the right leadership, with owners that are willing to go with a salary cap and floor and not let it just be the New York Yankees and Los Angeles Dodgers and all these big market teams all the time. The New York Mets now, they're going all in. I mean, I'm not saying the Mets are World Series contenders yet, but they just solidified a lineup, essentially. And yeah, the whole Juan Soto will be a DH in a few years. He can still play outfield, please. It's fine. Juan Soto's fine for a while. They're going to have a good lineup. Their pitching obviously needs work, but they were knocking on the door of a World Series, and they're going all in. That's what the New York Mets are doing. I have yet to see that from the Cleveland Guardians. I see cost-cutting moves for a team that has no business cost-cutting. And you look at the division, it's only getting better. Detroit, they're in a weird position because the Tigers, they can't keep winning with just bullpen games. They can't. That's a problem. They just decide to keep winning with bullpen games. The Kansas City Royals, they can't just continue to win the way they're doing without solidifying. They have, I think, the best rotation in the division, but they have to spend a little bit more money, and they have ownership that's proven they'll go all in to try to win a World Series. They did back in 2015, and the Guardians at times have done that, but I really don't buy it right now. I buy cheap ownership. I buy that this is just going in a weird direction, and I do blame baseball as a whole because a lot of things need to be changed in baseball. But that is what it is. It is what it is. It's the situation at hand right now. Obviously, the addition of Shane Bieber is great for this ball club. Really like that move. But there's a lot of work to still be done with the Cleveland Guardians, and that's going to be on ownership to figure out. That's not on Stephen Vogt. That's not on Chris Antonetti. That's not on Jose Ramirez or Josh Naylor, if Josh Naylor even remains a Guardian, because there's the rumors he and Lane Thomas could be traded, for crying out loud. That's on ownership. And we all know that they just made a bunch of money with all the fans that showed up in the stands this year. I love all the renovations. It's great. I love the commitment to the Northeast Ohio region. I want to see a little bit more money on the roster. And as I said, I called out Commissioner Rob Manfred for the stupid idea of having a golden bat rule. Rob Manfred, come on. I want to like you, man. But it's really hard to with all these outlandish, ridiculous rules. And I'm still trying to get over the pitch clock. And I'm still trying to get over the runner on second base. And I know the pitch clock, probably by popular demand, wouldn't go my way anyway. But still, it's dumb. Come on. Let's fix baseball up a little bit. I have a positive and optimistic attitude overall because it's such a great sport. And I really, really do think there's a really true love for baseball. It's America's pastime. It really, really is. Let's move on to Bill Belichick. He is going to be now the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. He's going to Chapel Hill. I think this is a good move for their program. He's an NFL head coach with NFL experience, being an all-time great, 6 Super Bowl rings. I know that means necessarily nothing on the college level because college is college, but he could bring an NFL-style program to the Tar Heels, and I really like that. Developing young men is what college football is all about, not just as football players, but as people. And I know we have the NIL now and the transfer portal and all that other yada, yada, yada. That's fine. I think Bill Belichick, his resume is obviously great. I know he's a little bit older. It may be harder to resonate with some of these younger players. I don't want to say he's going to try to bring that Patriot way all the way. He'll probably bring some of that Patriot way with him to North Carolina. I think the fans are going to be absolutely awesome over this. I think North Carolina and Chapel Hill, they're going to go nuts. That's going to be great for them to have Bill Belichick as their leader. It's going to absolutely be must-see TV. There's no doubt about that. We're going to see a lot of North Carolina Tar Heel primetime games. So I think marketing-wise, it's great for North Carolina. I think for Bill Belichick, it's great for him. Get on the college level. I think for his legacy, it's great because he already has such a great coaching legacy at the professional level. Why not have a good one at the college level? I think North Carolina still has a long way to go before we talk about them being national championship bound. There's just one problem I have, and that's I don't want to see the AP-style bias we've seen with Colorado also translate with North Carolina. I think Bill Belichick, being the head coach of North Carolina, is going to create some bias in the AP to try to rank them a little higher than they need to be. They need to build the program out slowly. Colorado had no business being ranked at all this year, yet they were. And I'm not saying it's not a great story what happened in Colorado with Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders and all that. It was. But for crying out loud, I mean, they didn't deserve to be ranked. They weren't even in the playoffs a few years ago. It's absurd. So that's the kind of stuff I don't want to see take place with North Carolina and Bill Belichick. And overall, I don't think it will. I would like to think, but because I saw it with Colorado, I have some question marks about that. But having said that, overall, this is great for TV. I am excited to watch a North Carolina football game at this point. I can't even remember the last time I could tell you that. North Carolina basketball, obviously, I think a lot of us are already all in on that. So North Carolina football, Chapel Hill, obviously, it's good branding. I think that's going to be great for the sport. Obviously, North Carolina kind of a mess this year, firing a coach. It's a great story to come off of. And I think for Bill's legacy, it's really good, too. I really do. And, he was a former Browns coach. We could say, like, hey, Cleveland Browns head coach got to start here, became a 6-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, developed that Patriot way mindset, took it down to North Carolina a little bit. I think, obviously, at the college level, it's not as much business as it is. I mean, obviously, from the coaching level, it is. But for the players, there's business with NIL and stuff now, which is, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's about developing young men. And I think that's great. I think Bill Belichick, with all the life experience he has, kind of like a Grandpa Bill kind of feel, be great for those college football players to really learn a lot about the game from him. And he is going to work on developing NFL talent, which is incredible at that level. We've seen that happen before. And Nick Saban, a disciple of Bill Belichick, we've seen what he did with Alabama. Could Bill Belichick do somewhat of the same at North Carolina? I don't want to say North Carolina will ever be the program Alabama is, but who knows? Who knows? It's a tremendous story, and I'm excited to see what happens. All right, let's move on a little bit to the NFL and the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston, of course, starting quarterback. Deshaun Watson was currently on vacation from what it looks like, not really focused in on the Cleveland Browns. Am I worried about this at all? Absolutely not. I have moved past Deshaun Watson at this point. I was all in on Deshaun Watson when we made the move a few years ago. I wasn't all in on the contract. I was all in on Deshaun Watson, the football player, not the off-the-field issues, none of that, yada, yada, yada. We can talk about that off the video. I'm not going anywhere down that road. What I was all in on was Deshaun Watson, the player I saw with the Houston Texans, the athlete, the arm, the confidence. It was all there, and it's all gone. It's all gone. It's out of Deshaun Watson, and we saw it with that 1-6 Cleveland Browns start this year. It ruined the season. And I'm not going to put it all on one player. Ken Dorsey looks like he was a big mistake overall. I'm still not sold on Ken Dorsey running the offense right now. I think he is going to be possibly someone that will not be with the Cleveland Browns after this season. I think he will be fired just because, someone's probably going to have to lose their job over this season, right? And it's probably not going to be Kevin Stefanski or Andrew Berry, so I think it's probably going to be Ken Dorsey. I still think it was a bad decision to move off of Alex Van Pelt in hindsight, because we saw how Alex Van Pelt worked with that offense last year at 5 different quarterbacks, which is why I questioned why we fired him to begin with. And I still do. I think we should have never got rid of Alex Van Pelt. So I'm going to stay with that. I think Kevin Stefanski is still a great offensive mind, great offensive coach. I don't put all this on him. I have defended Kevin Stefanski till I was blue in the face. I know a lot of that. I know Andrew Berry on his drafting I've been very critical of, so I will own up to all that as well. Having said that, it's going to be crucial for the Cleveland Browns to just figure out this quarterback situation going into next year. They might be a quarterback away. Their defense is still pretty darn good. I know they kind of had some mishaps in that Denver Bronco game, but still a lot of that was Jameis's picks. Jameis is a bridge quarterback. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers game proved it more than anything. Turns the ball over a little too much, and it costs games. If it was like I get it. I've said before, Matthew Stafford led the league in interceptions 2021. Rams still won the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford was winning, though. Jameis Winston isn't really winning. He's got great moments. He's got great cachet. He's got great speeches. I like to bring him back next year. I'm at a position where I like Jameis Winston better than Deshaun Watson. I get all that. He's still a bridge quarterback to me. This quarterback situation's got to get figured out one way or another. I don't think DTR is going to be your answer. I actually preferred us to keep Tyler Huntley, and maybe it was a money issue. I don't know. I just think Tyler Huntley, having veteran experience, would have been better than DTR going in as the backup situation right now. But, at this point, we're eliminated from playoff contention. There's nothing to play for. And the Kansas City Chiefs are coming to town this week. You're not going to win that game, most likely. It'll be fun to spoil the Kansas City Chiefs season a little bit. Love to see it. I heard rumors Taylor Swift's going to be here. It'll be fun to watch Taylor Swift at the ballpark. I was going to say ballpark, at the gridiron, watching the Kansas City Chiefs, and we could hopefully beat them right in front of her. Beat the Chiefs right in front of Taylor Swift. That would be funny, wouldn't it? But having said that, I'm not sold on the Cleveland Browns right now. Obviously, the rest of the season's over, but I'm not sold on Jameis Winston, I should say. I'm at a point now where he's a backup for a reason. He's a bridge quarterback. Love to bring him back next year. The Deshaun Watson on vacation thing, don't expect anything differently. He's clearly not sold on football anymore. I think he's done with the sport. He's already making his money. I think he's fine. If he retired, that might even be a better situation for the Browns. The contractually, I don't know if that works. You can't cut him. That's the other tough thing. You can't cut him. So do you run it back this year? I find it very hard-pressed that the Browns organization would ever play Deshaun Watson on that field again. I really, really do. But it could happen, theoretically. It may not be the last we've seen Deshaun Watson as a Brown. Could he be a backup quarterback now, making $233 million? I don't know. I do not know. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Browns are going to draft a quarterback, maybe not in the first round, maybe later on. They might go the offensive line route in the first round. Maybe they get a good veteran, and there might be some good guys on the market. Sam Darnold maybe is available coming up this offseason. Although if I'm Minnesota, I'd be pretty hard-pressed with the year he had to not bring him back, but they do have a rookie quarterback that's injured the rest of the year. There's going to be some quarterbacks on the market going into this offseason, but none of them are going to be at least the Deshaun Watson talent of Houston. And who knows if that will translate to Cleveland. And the Browns should be concerned about that because you got Joe Burrow in your division. You have now you have Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson. So, yeah, that's a tough situation for the Browns. Deshaun Watson, I said, bought out of this football team. So as fans, we should buy out of him. Don't think it's working out really well right now. And I think the organization knows it too. I think Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry at the end of the day know it. And I was wrong about Deshaun Watson. I'm going to keep emphasizing it over and over again. I thought Baker wasn't good enough by 2021. I get he was hurt, still thought he wasn't good enough. I wanted to cross the hump and get Deshaun Watson because I saw Super Bowl contention in a quarterback like him. And it's not happening anymore. It's just not. It's gone. It's done and dusted. And if I'm the Browns, it's time to move on and make some decisions. All right. Before we wrap up the show, let's talk a little bit about the Cleveland Cavaliers and Max Strus coming back. What a better game to come back than against the Washington Wizards, who are 3-19. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 21-4. Now, I wouldn't say a bad loss to Miami the other day. Obviously, losing sucks, but you know what? The Miami Heat are 500, but they're a really good 500. We know what the Miami Heat bring to the table with that Heat culture, that Pittsburgh Steelers style of play that they bring. So, I'm not too mad about that Cavs loss to Miami, as I've mentioned before. I mentioned, I think, with Jerome on Tuesday's edition of Raw Takes. So having said that, though, Max Strus coming back into this lineup, that's probably some more depth. I think Max Strus is going to be a great fifth man in the lineup unless we start to mix in Dean Wade. I even mentioned maybe when Dean Wade, as long as he stays healthy, maybe make him the fifth man, have Strus come off the bench. We know what Strus brings, but you look at this bench right now as a whole, you have Ty Jerome coming off the bench, clearly probably the best bench in the NBA outside of maybe Boston, who's pretty much right up there with you with Peyton Pritchard and guys like that. But you look at Ty Jerome, you look at Karis LeVert. I mean, there's so many guys you could look at when it comes to the Cleveland Cavaliers offense and what they have on their bench that they could bring out there and ice games for you. It's tremendous what they're able to do. And I'm excited to see how they bring it to the table. I really, really am. The Cleveland Cavaliers are so fun this year. I know they're leading the NBA right now with their record overall, but man, it's been a wild ride. And obviously, I think you're going to go as far as Donovan Mitchell takes you. Donovan Mitchell is a guy so far. You just see this group. They're close-knit. And, we thought last year there might be some problems between Darius and Donovan. No. I don't see that at all with this year's Cleveland Cavaliers. It is a lot of that coaching. It might be. I still think Bickerstaff did a great job for what he brought to the table the last 2 years, but it probably was our ceiling. It was probably time to move on and get the right guy with an offensive mindset to tap into this core four. As I said before, the core four maybe is what Kenny Atkinson saw more in than what J.B. Bickerstaff did. There was not much offseason additions made with the Cleveland Cavaliers or adjustments or changes. There was talk about breaking up the core four, and that's not even happening right now. Is it possible the Cavs could get something during the deadline, possibly make a move? Maybe. Maybe they run it with this. This is a really close-knit, tight group right now. Maybe you don't need to make a move. I still think the Cavs may want to make one more move coming off the bench just to have a little bit more depth to the rotation and get things going because this Cleveland Cavalier offense is really, really good. And they're going to get another win most likely on Friday night tomorrow against the Washington Wizards just because they're so awful. I mean, it's the NBA. You never know. But man, oh man, is this Cleveland Cavalier team fun or what? it really is tremendous to watch them this season. And looking at the rest of the NBA, I mean, the Milwaukee Bucks are only getting better right now. As I said, I still think Doc Rivers is a problem and a liability later this season. We'll see if that transpires. But if Giannis likes him, he's probably going to keep his job. That's really what it comes down to, whatever Giannis thinks. You look at the Boston Celtics right now, obviously best bench probably next to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA. You look at the Orlando Magic, even though they don't have Paolo Banchero, and now not Franz Wagner, but they're still playing really good basketball. Very well-coached team right there in Orlando right now, too. Oklahoma City out west, they're doing a tremendous job without Chet Holmgren. Memphis is really well-coached. How are they going to keep it up, though, with no Ja Morant? Who knows? But they're really good right now. The Lakers have kind of fallen apart. Still think they're a clown show right now. And so have the Golden State Warriors to a degree. They're not a clown show. They're respectable, but the Golden State Warriors, I think, are still missing Klay Thompson in his prime, and that's going to be a problem for them. That's it for today's edition of Raw Takes with Andrew Hody. Like, comment, subscribe. We're getting some feisty comments as of late. I love it. Please keep leaving them on. We'll give you shout-outs on the show. We got Short Take Saturday coming up this upcoming Saturday. Like, comment, subscribe below. Check out the show on social media. We'll be back with some more Raw Takes next week and Short Take Saturday on Saturday. Have a good one, everybody. Live from my truck as it's defrosting. It's a Frosty Take, Raw Take.